I can calculate the mass percentage of elements in a compound. This is the problem that we're going to solve. A 150 gram sample of sodium chloride contains 33% sodium by mass. We're going to determine three things. One, the mass of sodium in the sample. Two, the percent of chlorine in the sample. And three, the mass of chlorine in the sample. Now, in order to solve these problems efficiently, it's very important to keep track of what's given and what's unknown. So, our given quantities, we have a 150 gram sample of sodium chloride. So, I want to call that my total. So, I'm going to say total is equal to 150 grams. The next quantity that's given to us, 33% sodium by mass. So my percent sodium is equal to 33%. Now, my unknown quantities. This is what the problem is asking us for. What we don't know is the mass of sodium in the sample. So mass sodium. We don't know the percent of chlorine in the sample. And we don't know the mass of chlorine in the sample. Now, let us move to try to solve for the first thing that we're asked for, the mass of sodium in the sample. Here's how we find the mass of sodium. If our total mass of the sample is 150 grams. So let me make a little pie chart. Our total is 150 grams. Okay? That's my total. 33% of it is sodium. So if I were to divide my pie chart into thirds, each one is 33%. 33% here, 33% here, 33% here. It all should add up to 100%. 99% close enough. Now, one of these, 1/3 is going to be sodium. So if this whole chart is 150 grams, what is the mass of this 1/3? That's what we're trying to find. Now, we can do this mathematically by saying my mass of sodium remember, that's our first unknown. It's equal to the total multiplied by the percent sodium. So, to get the mass of sodium, I need to take my total, 150 grams, and I need to multiply it by 33%. Here's how I'm going to do that. I'm going to multiply it by 33 divided by 100. 33 over 100. That's the same as 33% because a percent is nothing but a fraction over 100. So 33% is 33 over 100. So when I multiply the total by the percent sodium, I'm multiplying 150 grams times 33 over 100. So when I put that into my calculator, I'll say 150 times 33 divided by 100. And that's going to give me 49.5. What are my units? My units are grams. So 49.5 grams of sodium. That's the mass of sodium in my sample. So now this is known. That's my mass of sodium. Now, the next thing that I want to try to find is the percent of chlorine in the sample. So how do I find the percent of chlorine in the sample? Well, you can remember from our discussion of percents, all percents must add up to 100. Now, if this is my pie chart again, if this whole chart is 100% and 33%, which is a third, is going to be the sodium, the rest is going to be my chlorine. So how do I find the percent of chlorine? Well, I just take my whole minus my percent sodium. So my percent of chlorine is equal to 100% minus 33%, which is equal to 67%. So my percent of chlorine is 67% chlorine. So now I can put that down here, and now this is known. So now my final thing that I want to find is the mass of chlorine in the sample. That's the last thing that I want to find. So I know that this is 67%. Now, I know my total is 150 grams. Okay? So how do I find the mass of chlorine? It's the same formula that I use, or the same method that I used to find the mass of sodium. What I did was, I have 150 grams. I'm going to multiply it by the percent of chlorine. So the mass of chlorine is equal to the total multiplied by the percent of chlorine. And what I will get is going to be 150 grams multiplied by what? My percent is 67%. Whenever I'm multiplying percents, I got to put that over 100. Multiplied by 67 over 100. And that is equal to 150 times 67 divided by 100 is that's going to be 100.5 grams of chlorine. And that is my final unknown, 100.5 grams of chlorine. So now I found the mass of sodium, I found the percentage of chlorine, and I found the mass of chlorine. But here's another way we can find that mass of chlorine without using that percent. I know that the mass of sodium is 49.5 grams. Okay, once again, I'm going to draw my pie chart. I know that the mass of sodium is 49.5 grams. I know that my total is 150 grams. That's the size of the whole pie. So how do I find the mass of chlorine? Well, I can just take the total, 150. I can take the total minus the mass of sodium. And that will give me the mass of chlorine. So 150 minus 49.5 is equal to 100.5. 0.5. And that's how you can find these unknown quantities. It's all about knowing what your total is and knowing what percent is going to give you what mass.